Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the City of Bettendorf Committee of the Whole meeting. Today is it's not Monday, October 18th, but it is Tuesday, October 19th. We did not have our Committee of the Whole meeting yesterday in favor of moving it to today. It's a short agenda, and we spent 3 days together about a week ago, so we figured, one more day instead of making you come down here for about 10 minutes would be a welcome effort. So we have one consent agenda item. This is E and F, it looks like, but we're going to talk about it in one fell swoop. This is our local match for the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, and for the discussion on this topic, we welcome our Community Development Director, Mr. Mark Hunt. Mark, thank you for being here. You now have the floor.
Thanks, Your Honor. Members of the council, let me just kind of give you an overview of this program, because I know it's been going on for some time, and there's a little bit of history and background that I wanted to provide to you in advance of contemplating the 2021 application, which we're about to turn in here. So, quick map showing the project area. Everything in blue is in the 100-year floodplain. The blue area, roughly all of this, maybe I'm not annotating, but the blue area from Duck Creek, between Hillside Drive and Duck Creek, that really is the project area. And since 2015, we have been purchasing homes in this area through a flood buyout program funded by FEMA and the state and local match from the city. All of those areas that were blue, that's a 1% flood chance. What that means is there's a 26% chance over the life of a mortgage, a 30-year mortgage, that one of those homes will flood, or that home in that area would flood. And so we've seen in all of our lifetimes multiple flood events. Two prominent ones were the 1987 flood and the 1993 flood, or the Great Flood of 93, which all of us, I'm sure, remember. In 87, the floodwaters north of Parkway Drive were about 2.5 feet deep, based off of city records. And in 1993, anecdotally, they were as deep as the street signs, or just under this. You could maybe perhaps see the street sign, but just barely. So most of those homes were underwater at that time. We had, in the early to mid 2000s, we had insurance rates spiking. The National Flood Insurance Program was running out of money. Rates were going up. We were having more storms, and homeowners sought assistance. They came to the city council. They went to the federals. They went to the state asking for help. A contingent from Bettendorf also went to DC and sought help, and was able to get connected with FEMA for a hazard mitigation grant program, or HMGP, flood buyout program. Some things have changed a little bit along the way. Since we've started that program, private sector insurance has come into play, and that has lowered some of these costs down a little bit. But we're also facing increased storms, increased flooding, and there's a new risk rating that's coming out called Risk Rating 2.0 that could raise rates again. It would raise rates for the National Flood Insurance Program, and then local providers or private sector providers would also probably raise their rates in kind. The 2015 grant was 10 properties, most near the intersection of Parkway and Greenway, and I'll show you a map of those in a second. And we had a $1.68 million project with $252,000 of local match. In pink are those properties. You'll see that there was a cluster at Parkway and Greenway, and then we had kind of one odd picked up off of Holly. At the time, we were going for only owner-occupied homes, only under NFIP insurance. And so this is the original chessboard, if you will, of properties we purchased. In 2019, we picked up another property. This wasn't done under the flood program. It was done under just private purchase the city made. We had a home that had caught fire, became a nuisance. We went through an abatement process and were able to demolish it. We actually purchased the property for $10 plus the cost of demolition. That's an interesting piece to this puzzle, because that property has no restrictions on it. Because it's not a flood buyout property, the city can program that property or develop that property any way they may want to, which might be nice because there are some limitations on the flood buyout properties that I'll go over here in a little bit. So now your map is in 2019, you've got your 10 purchase properties under the 15 grant, your 2019 private purchase, if you will, in orange. In 2019, council approved a second round, 22 homes are authorized. We're still working on that grant right now. And so I know the timeframes get a little bit weird, because the 2019 grant to me is the current grant. That's the grant I'm working on every day. We're meeting with homeowners, we're purchasing homes. We're halfway through that buyout. We should be finished next summer. And the total there was 2.9 million with 443,000 in local match. So you put those on the map. You're starting to fill out a little bit. Pay attention to the block face of Parkway Drive between Greenway and Hawthorne as we talk here tonight. You're going to see that block face is going to fill up entirely under the proposed application. So again, here you have in pink, or light pink and dark pink, if you will, both grants, and then the one in orange is the 2019 private purchase. The topic at hand is the 2021 grant application. We're looking to purchase 17 homes. They've all been filtered that they have to be contiguous to previous buyouts. So we're not buying any onesies or twosies. We're buying near previous buyouts. All these homes have been appraised. They've all turned in voluntary transaction forms, meaning they're interested in the program. No one has to sell. This is a voluntary program. So if you're not interested at any time, you don't have to go through the purchase. It would take us two and a half years to complete all the buyouts. Local match, again, right around that $440,000 number with a $2.3 million total project. If you look at the block face from Greenway, if you will here, all the way down to Hawthorne, now that's all in play. And you start to square off some areas. You start to create potential green space, park space, something that could be used to connect to other parks in the region to provide parks for this part of town. And let me give it to you in a little bit better graphic here. So that's roughly 7 acres of contiguous park space. I did count properties as being contiguous if the only separation was a road. So where you have Hawthorne separating the larger block of property on Parkway or Greenway. You have a whole block face between Greenway and Hawthorne. And to me, more importantly, and really more interestingly, is you're connected to the Duck Creek Bike Path and all the other parks connected on it. So now you have a network of parks. I think I mentioned 7 contiguous acres, a full block face, Duck Creek Bike Path connectivity. We do have restrictions on anything we bought with FEMA money. So because the purpose of the grant is to remove property from the floodplain, we have allowable uses that are limited. So we can't build buildings back on them. So unpaved trails, and there's ways to do unpaved surfaces that are interesting. Picnic shelters, ball fields, community gardens. And in a more larger concept, this Greenway concept, where you start connecting parks to other parks. And so residents can then enjoy a trail system that has parks to stop at along the way. And it is interesting that now under this concept, Parkway would both begin and end with a park. If I can go back a slide or two. Parkway Drive, which terminates at I-74 and essentially starts at Middle Park. If this program were to continue and you were to fund it, Parkway Drive would literally run parallel to a park the whole way, the Duck Creek Bike Path, and then both terminate and begin at Middle Park and perhaps whatever this new park is called. And then I think you can also see the larger connectivity. If you start looking at Devil's Glen Park and move west to Hollowview, to Middle Park, and to a potential new park, connected all along a bike path, all along Duck Creek, and you kind of get the Greenway concept. And other communities have used this, most notably in Des Moines right now. This is what they call their 4-mile Greenway. Similar project, FEMA floodplain buyouts, 4 miles of Greenway connected with bike paths. They're not as fully developed with trails as we are at this point, to my understanding. And then they've built in different types of environmental features along this pathway. It's probably wider than ours, but overall lengthwise, it's a pretty similar project. And this is just their webpage. They have, basically no programming. This isn't a park that is a ball diamond or a soccer field. It's all rural and passive in nature. There are some community garden concepts with fruit and nut trees and things like that as well. So for the council's consideration tonight would be that $440,000 in local match. To continue this program, we do have 17 homeowners that have given their letter of interest or their voluntary transaction form. We are in no way obligated to them. They're in no way obligated to us, but it would allow what I think is kind of the closing out or the finishing of this project we started in 2015, where we went from, just a few clustered properties kind of spread around to now something that's a lot larger and usable space that then connects parks connected to other parks, which I think is an interesting feature.
Ready for some questions?
I'd be happy to answer questions.
Questions? Lisa?
Mark, what's that one on Greenway? Well, almost doesn't look like there's a complete house there on the left of Greenway.
Okay.
I know there's an empty lot over there. Oh, no, that's not it, though. But, do you see where I'm looking?
Let me just try and
That
dial in here
little
for you.
sliver. Oh, wait, you've blown it up, no?
So
That sliver that's not green, do you see that?
right here,
No, on the other side.
Greenway.
On Greenway.
here.
Yep.
Yep. So it's a voluntary program. That homeowner has decided they don't want to participate.
Oh, that is a house? Okay.
Yep.
Looks like a tool shed. Okay.
No, it's probably just the way the map's drawn. It's not real clear.
Other questions? Greg?
Thank you, Your Honor. The properties that we've acquired and knocked the house down, but it's not contiguous with, do we have to go up and cut the grass, or what's going on with those properties?
Yeah. So great question. So right now we're mowing those up with a contractor. It's part of our bid that we do annually. We include those projects in it. And we're mowing them. I've had a couple trees that have died over the years I've had to take down. But right now it's just maintenance. It's not really, it's public space, but it's not really well used right now. So the space is there, but it really just kind of gets mowed.
Thank you.
Frank?
Thank you, Your Honor. Can we put a dog park down there?
You can.
A fence?
Yep. So just the restriction would be that we'd have to have FEMA approve the fences, and they have several models that they consider breakaway or will allow flow of floodplain water or flood water. So that would be the restriction, that we use a fence that's approved for the area by FEMA, which there is one in the Des Moines Park I just showed you.
Okay. One more question. The two on Hawthorne there, Hawthorne Drive, I'm assuming they do not want to sell? Or are they in an?
Yeah, at this time. So it's interesting because, it's a lot about timing with people. We've talked, and Tim Stecker was going to try and be here tonight, but he couldn't. He had a family situation to take care of. But we have a lot of interest, but sometimes it's about timing, where people are at in their life right now. So some people may not be ready to sell, not that they don't want to sell or be a part of the program, but it doesn't line up where their life is right now. So it's not always, if you see one or two on the map that aren't filled in, it's just sometimes it's timing for people.
Jerry?
Thank you, Your Honor. I guess I've got some concerns. I drove past these houses, and it seems to me as though they're being well-maintained. There's a bunch of new roofs out there. The landscaping's taken care of. They're mowing the grass. I'm unaware that the fire department or the police department are getting unusual calls down there. So they're on the tax base, they're paying their taxes. It's affordable housing. I'm concerned that we're taking out affordable housing. It's been 30 years since we had the flood. I know it flooded in '93, but we've had Mississippi flood higher than '93 since then, and these had no problem. And part of the reason is because Public Works has got a good stormwater management program where we have kept the Duck Creek, the creek cleaned out so that it's not creating dams, and we're managing the stormwater with detention ponds. So I guess I'm concerned about, this project. And I have a couple questions. One is, in the first two phases, we talked about only getting owner-occupied houses. For this phase, will we be continuing that policy of owner-occupied, or are we bailing out some landlords?
So you did do owner occupied in the first phase, and that resulted in that first map, which, you know, was pretty spread out. If you only did owner occupied, you would not be able to square off and create contiguous usable area.
Of the 17 that are proposed, Mark, how many of those are owner occupied?
It's about half. About 8 are renter occupied. One's for sale on contract, so define that however you want. And the rest are owner occupied.
I seem to recall that part of the justification for the program to begin with was we were helping out owners that couldn't sell their house. Some were actually walking away from the house, and we had some vacant ones several years ago. I don't think that's the case anymore. Flood insurance, was really high, but like you point out in the slide, in 2019, some of that problem went away when we
Yeah.
allowed private insurance. And then a lot of these are owned by landlords who are willing to take the risk without insurance.
That's an accurate assessment. I think the original intent, you talked about maybe some deteriorating properties and things like that. It's always been about removing properties from the floodplain with FEMA. It's not been a blight. So the grant from FEMA is about taking property out of the floodplain, and this still is property in the floodplain. Recent history or not, it's still considered, floodplain area. So that part where properties are maintained is not really an issue for FEMA. FEMA's more about removing property from the floodplain. I think if we want to, as a city, continue this, our goal is maybe twofold. It's, again, get properties out of the floodplain for sure, but also to kind of round off and finish what we started. And, there may be an opportunity, if council sees it, to take these few remaining parcels and put them together and create a collection that's a little more cohesive.
Much more.
I guess if we do that, then I see that we need to make a commitment to the parks to add a lot more money and personnel to the parks, because I know that parks has struggled with manpower this past summer, and we've struggled with funds to get all of the parks up to the same standard.
Other questions? Bill?
Mark, are we eligible for any new ratings because we've participated in this program to lower flood
So,
insurance costs?
yeah, so there's the community rating system that FEMA offers that if we participate in that, and that's a longer term vision for what we're looking at in the community development department. By participating in that program, we could lower flood insurance rates for everybody throughout the city, potentially. But we have to do several things, some of them being buy properties out of the floodplain. So this would be an example. If we were in the CRS system, community rating system, this would be an eligible activity that would potentially lower rates for those who do pay flood insurance in our town.
Is there an intent to become part of the community rating system?
We're looking at it. We've talked about it with new staff. So we've added some staff recently that have some expertise in that area. And we had that conversation today that we thought this would rank well as one of the eligible activities. Now, there are other things you have to do, and we haven't assessed all of them yet. We would have to be willing to take them on, but there could be a benefit community-wide if we did that.
Another one thing that we've done is put base flood elevation 2 foot above, or lowest floor elevation 2 foot above base flood elevation. So that's a plus.
Yeah, that would also
community
benefit
rating
us in the CRS system.
So I would recommend we look into that and pursue that sooner than later.
I would agree.
Greg?
Thank you, Your Honor. Back in the 90s, when several of us were on the park board, we went through the town and said, where would we like to have some parks that have a lot of kids, a lot of people, but there's no land for it. And one of the ones was right here. And I know even recently, we've been talking about taking, trying to get maybe a place on Magnolia or something, and just taking down one building and do something, little bitty thing. This is an opportunity. How many acres?
7 almost.
7 acres?
7 acres contiguous.
It's an
Yeah.
opportunity to have a really nice park. And I know over a period of time, we'll target a couple other and try to have some funding to pick those up.
Yeah.
And make, I think it's a golden opportunity to put a really nice park in an area that they have none.
To your point, Councilman, some of the properties that haven't been purchased yet, if they do come in and the city were to pursue them with non-federal funds, then we could use that space however we see fit and add, paved parking or fixtures that wouldn't be allowed in the FEMA-controlled spaces or the FEMA purchased spaces.
Place to park equipment or,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hard surfaces, really. Hard surfaces and walls is what FEMA doesn't really want in the floodplain.
Any other questions? Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion that this remain on consent as E and F this evening.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We'll take it up as consent items E and F. Let's move to our remaining consent agenda items. Is there anything on our consent agenda that any particular council member would like to discuss or possibly ask a question about at this time? All right, seeing none, let's approve the remaining items to be taken up on our consent agenda.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We'll take those up on consent. Any operational items of these two large items that sit before you this evening? Yielding and stop signs. Actually, electrical code, but that's the second reading. Anything there? All right, we've approved our operational items. I have nothing to add. Any council person have anything to add tonight? Seeing none, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved.
Second.
We stand adjourned. We'll start in 8 minutes. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the City of Bettendorf City Council meeting. Today is Tuesday, October 19th, 2021 at 7:00 p.m. Thank you all for being here. We appreciate it. We've got a full house for a lot of great things that we're going to do tonight. We do need to start with a roll call. Michelle, could you please help me?
Adamson.
Here.
Brown.
Here.
Connors.
Here.
Nauman.
Here.
Sexer.
Here.
Baden.
Here.
Webster.
Here. Fantastic. Now I'd like to introduce to you Troop 24 from St. John Vianney, and they're going to help us lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. That will be followed by an invocation given by our own Michelle Spencer. So, Troop 24, can you please rise and help us with the Pledge of Allegiance? We'll turn it over to you. We ready?
Got salute.
Please remain standing for an invocation by Michelle Spencer.
Thank you, Your Honor. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We are grateful for all the men and women before us tonight who have graciously given their time and talents to the betterment of our community, including our first responders, both police and fire. We ask that you please preside over this meeting and grant this council the power, wisdom, and knowledge to carry out your will and the tasks before them tonight. We also thank you for the scouts that are joining us tonight and are grateful for the pledge that they took to do their duty to you and their country and to obey the scout law, to help other people at all times, to keep themselves physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight. We look forward to them being our community leaders one day. We pray these things in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. I almost started clapping. That's so well done, Michelle. Father Michelle.
Mother Michelle.
Well, is it Mother Michelle or is it? I don't know about that.
Hard to say.
All right. A whole bunch of us are here today in the back, looking forward to a couple of fire promotions. For that, we will welcome our Fire Chief, Steve Knork, and we'll ask that Lieutenant Bill McDonald and Firefighter Shane Peitcher come forward because you are changing up here, folks. Congratulations. Chief?
asked to come forward tonight because the spotlight is yours tonight. It's on your accomplishments. It is my privilege to have a great group of guys in the fire department to carry out all the functions that we do. And we have several personnel who have been preparing themselves to be leaders, and these two are among those. And we're the highest two on the civil service list after the interviews. I'm honored to be part of this promotion ceremony today for these two personnels, and this was necessitated on the retirement of Captain Jeff Green, who retired last week. So it's a big day for our department as well as for Shane and Bill. And they each joined the department's leadership and will carry forward our mission as a department as well as the city and help shape the future of the department. Leadership means having self-confidence, to believe that you can make a difference, having the passion to believe that what you do matters, and the courage to make changes. Leaders are not defined by their popularity, but by their willingness to move forward. Their willingness to share credit, their strength to admit errors, and their willingness to pick themselves up and keep leading and motivating others towards fulfilling the broader goals and objectives of the department. Both of these gentlemen have quite a bit of training in their past. Both share that training with others. Both have been or are currently EMT, emergency medical technician instructors with Scott Community College. So they share the skills and knowledge that they have gained as both as paramedics, but they teach the basic class for emergency medical technicians. Bill McDonald was promoted, actually was hired by the department back in August of 2000 after a brief 2-month stint, I believe it was, with Muscatine Fire Department. And he was promoted to lieutenant in March of 2019, so just a couple of years ago. He's already moving up to captain.
Push that mic up.
Both of these two have an Associate's of Arts degree in EMS through Scott Community College. Bill has been the department training officer for a couple of years now. Bill has completed the National Fire Academy Managing Officers Program back in 2017, and the Illinois Fire Service Institute Fireground Company Officer School. Bill is one of our fire investigators and relied heavily upon to do those things. Bill is also on the tactical EMS, is a tactical person that works with the police department on their ERU, Emergency Response Unit, and works very closely with them. He also was on the MABUS 43 hazmat team for the regional or area response in the immediate Quad City area, as well as the possibility for being deployed beyond that area. Shane Peitcher was hired by the department back in August of 2010. He has a Bachelor of Arts in Marketing through UNI, University of Northern Iowa, and is working to complete his master's with a focus in organizational leadership, and will be done with that by September of 2022 through St. Andrews University. He is on the MABUS Technical Rescue Team and has a variety of training that he has completed for all kinds of different rescue situations, from collapsed buildings to rope rescue, to river rescue, water rescue. And he actually works and teaches for North Central Water Rescue, a class or 2 a year, depending on what they need. But he uses that experience and training to help recertify our personnel or provide refresher training for swift water. Mayor?
We ready?
Yes.
All right, I'm gonna start with you, Bill. Please join me right here in the front of the room. Family, if you want to come up to take pictures, please do so. You're welcome. All right, we're gonna swear you in. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
All right. Raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Bill McDonald,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
and the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
and I will faithfully
and I will faithfully
and impartially, to the best of my ability, discharge all duties of captain as now or hereafter required by law. Congratulations, Captain. Familiar with us, who wants to stick Dad with a pin? Let Mama do it. Congratulations. All right, Shane. Come on up. Congratulations. Ready? Please raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Shane Picher,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
and the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
and that I will faithfully
and I will faithfully
and impartially,
and impartially,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
discharge all duties of lieutenant
discharge all duties of lieutenant,
as now or hereafter required by law.
as here or now after as required by law.
Fantastic. Congratulations. Liam and Alana. One more? Yeah.
Bobby, you taking some pictures?
Take a couple.
Jeff, you gonna take some? Shane?
You gotta stay in a couple. Sorry.
Good job. Assistant Governor.
We now have a proclamation for World Polio Day. For that, we welcome the Assistant Governor for District 6000, your own Scott Nauman. Thank you, sir. We're real glad you're here today. Are you learning anything new?
This is a great privilege for me, sir.
All right, I'll deliver this proclamation for World Polio Day. Whereas Rotary is a global network of neighbors, friends, leaders, and problem solvers who unite and take action to create lasting change in communities across the globe. And whereas the Rotary motto, service above self, inspires members to provide humanitarian service, follow high ethical standards, and promote goodwill and peace in the world. And whereas in 1985, Rotary launched Polio Plus, and in 1988 helped establish the Global Polio Eradication Initiative, which today includes the World Health Organization, the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, UNICEF, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, as well as Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance, and we immunize children of the world against polio. Whereas polio cases have dropped 99.9% since 1988, and the world stands on the threshold of eradicating the disease. And whereas to date, Bettendorf Rotary has raised and contributed in excess of $500,000, and Rotary International has contributed more than $2.1 billion and countless volunteer hours to protecting more than 2.5 billion children in 122 countries. And whereas Rotary is working to raise an additional $50 million per year, which will be leveraged for maximum impact by an additional $100 million annually from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And whereas these efforts are providing much needed operational support, medical staff, laboratory equipment, and educational materials for the health workers and parents. And whereas, in addition, Rotary has played a major role in decisions by donor governments to contribute more than $100 billion to the effort. And whereas there are over 1.2 million Rotary members in more than 35,000 clubs throughout the world that sponsor service projects to address such critical issues as poverty, disease, hunger, illiteracy, and the environment in their local communities and abroad. And whereas this is the longest proclamation I've read in the 10 years I have been mayor, I now therefore, Robert Gallagher, the mayor of the city of Bettendorf, see, it's got me going, do hereby proclaim October 24th, 2021 as World Polio Day in the city of Bettendorf, and I encourage all of our citizens to join me and Rotary International in the fight for a polio-free world.
Here, here. Here, here.
Oh. Appreciate your leadership in our local club and our district. Many of us, Jean, Decker, and I, and Jillian, who's on Zoom, lots of folks here involved in Rotary and the mission that you help lead us in. So we appreciate your leadership. Would you like to say anything?
Your Honor, just thank you so much. I know that Rotary's changed a lot of lives across the world. Many of us, even here at home, have benefited from being part of this effort. It never gets old when you're in the room with someone who's put that miracle drop into a child's mouth and how their lives have been touched. But it's not about that person, but they just are filled with emotion trying to make a difference in the world. We're this close to getting rid of it. The end will not come until that last person, until it's gone. So thank you all for your support, and thank you today for your proclamation.
Please deliver that to the district governor on our behalf. Scott, are you still in Rotary?
Technically, no.
Oh. Well, come back. Okay, we have now come to public requests of council. If there's an item on tonight's agenda that is not up for public hearing, but you'd like to be heard, or any other item that you'd like to address publicly to council this evening, you may do so by approaching the podium in the back. Please state your name and address and tell us what you think. We'd like to hear from you. Anybody here for public requests of council? Okay, we'll close public requests of council. Let's move to a first reading for Councilmember Baden, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have the first reading of an ordinance amending Bettendorf City Code Section 6-1-322B2, vehicles entering a yield intersection by adding a yield intersection on Emily Road and Emily Court at 55th Avenue. I move approval of the ordinance at the first reading.
Second. Any discussion here? Obviously, a growing part of the city. There's a need for some traffic. Okay.
Old neighborhood.
Michelle, would you please call the roll?
Baden.
Aye.
Webster.
Aye.
Adamson.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Connors.
Aye.
Nauman.
Aye.
Sexer.
Aye.
We have unanimously passed the first reading. Since it's an ordinance, Boy Scouts, how many readings does it need? 3, very nicely done. Let's move to a second reading of 3 on this ordinance for Council Member Webster, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have a second reading of an ordinance amending the city code of the city of Bettendorf, Iowa, Title 10, Chapter 4, entitled Electrical Code and Regulations relating to the 2020 National Electric Code. I move approval of the ordinance at second reading.
Second.
Any discussion here? Just like to reiterate what we said last time. Scott Webster, thank you very much for your hard work on this. Thank you to the folks in the departments who have worked really hard on this in community development, especially Mark, thank you. And Bill, okay, I thought you said Bill had something else, but thank you for your hard work because you were part of that before. Michelle, would you please call the roll?
Baden.
Aye.
Webster.
Aye.
Adamson.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Connors.
Aye.
Nauman.
Aye.
Sexer.
Aye.
All right, that second reading has been unanimously approved. We'll get one more of them. Let's try a third and final reading for Councilmember Nauman tonight.
Thank you, Your Honor. I do have the third and final reading of an ordinance amending sections 2-6-2 and 2-8-8 of the city code of the city of Bettendorf to create the position of Director of Culture and Recreation. I move approval of the ordinance and its final reading.
Second.
Any discussion here? Are you waiting on pins and needles, Kim? Are the cards already printed? All right, Michelle, let's make it official.
Baden.
Aye.
Webster.
Aye.
Adamson.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Connors.
Aye.
Nauman.
Aye.
Sexer.
Aye.
Welcome to our new Director of Culture and Recreation, Ms. Kim Kidwell. Now let's tackle the consent agenda. I'd like the motion to approve the same at this time.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on any portion of tonight's consent agenda? Yes, Councilmember Sexer.
Thank you, Honor. I expressed my concerns about this program during Committee of the Whole, and I do have two questions. One question is this the last phase? My understanding it is. And the second question is, do we plan to use eminent domain to take any of these houses?
As far as the first question, certainly that's up to council as we move forward. There'd be more opportunity, but if council were to change its path, you have the absolute right to do so. So it could be the last phase. One of the things that you heard in the Committee of the Whole was Director Hunt tell you how the continuous nature of these properties in particular would create some opportunities for parks, for trails, for those kinds of things. And that's why following through with this portion was important to staff. As far as the second portion of the question, Mr. Plain, would you like to tackle that?
Your Honor, the program is a voluntary program, and so we would not be using eminent domain. We simply would walk away from any property that chose not to be in the program.
Okay, anything else on consent? Okay, Michelle, please call the roll on consent.
Baden.
Aye.
Webster.
Aye.
Adamson.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Connors.
Aye.
Nauman.
Aye.
Sexer.
Aye.
We have unanimously approved tonight's consent agenda. I'd like to entertain a motion.
Second.
We stand adjourned.